camera's recording. All right, Mano, just state your name.
Leopold Nicknair.
Monseigneur Leopold Nicknair. All right, Mano, I just want you first to tell me about the history of our great-great-grandparents.
Our great-grandparent, who was a Lindner, Christopher Linden, L-I-N-D-N-E-N, came Lindner, L-I-N-D-N-E-R, came from Germany. He was a Hession, and the British hired Hessians to come and fight against the American in the colonial war, a Revolutionary War. And they came in here about 1974, and
1774? You said 1974.
No, 1774.
Okay.
1774. And they came, many regiments. On the internet, you can pick up all of the regiments that came and how many people came and how many people died and all this. And so they came and they fought and they lost. And so the British offered them land along the St. Lawrence River in the county of Kamouraska. And they established themselves in a little village called Saint Andre of Kamouraska. And there were no parishes there then. So they used to travel to Rivière-du-Loup, which was probably close to 50 miles for any church. He eventually met a woman and married her at St. Patrick's Church in Rivière-du-Loup. And actually, he married her in a mission at Rivière-Well, but it was a part of Rivière-du-Loup's parish.
Now, what was his religious background before?
He was a Lutheran, and as part of his marrying a Catholic woman in the province of Quebec at the time, they had to renounce their faith, which he did publicly at the church, at the parish church, and he was married, and then we have the whole lineage that comes after this. And what happened is that a few generations later came my grandfather, Francois, and he was an orphan by his mother, and he was brought up by another family that eventually brought him to Lewiston when he was about 9 or 10 years old. In Lewiston, they had child labor in the mills, in the woolen mills, and he worked in there. He was telling us the story that they used to hide the children when the inspectors came to inspect the mills, so that they wouldn't get fined. But then he met my grandmother, who was from Waterville. She lived in Waterville. She was a Thibodeau, and Vitaly Thibodeau, and he married her at St. Francis de Sales Church in Waterville. And they moved to Lewiston. He worked there and was working for stonecutters, and it was making him sick. And the doctor told him that he had better leave that job and move out in the country somewheres. So he moved a long ways out in the country. He moved he moved to Winterville and came and established himself here. And at the time, I believe they had 2 children. They had Uncle Willie and my father. My father was just a young boy. And they moved all their belongings by train up to Ashland, Maine, and from Ashland, Maine, they put all their stuff on wagons, and they came by horse wagons to Winterville, where he had come and he had built a house to receive the family.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So the next thing I want to get into now is what your father did when he was making maple syrup for you guys one particular morning?
I remember one morning, we always used to get up for Mass, and we would leave about 5:45 to go serve the Mass at 6:15 at the hospital for the Franciscan sisters. And my father was up way before us. By 4 o'clock he was up, and he would prepare a breakfast for the whole family, which was like a regular meal. I mean, we always had ham or some meat or other, but this particular morning he was making pancakes, and he would take the maple sugar and he would melt it on the stove until it became syrup for the pancakes, and then he would take the syrup that was all melted in a pan, and he'd put it on the porch, and he had put that on the porch, and all of a sudden the cat was doing something in the corner that he didn't like, and he just grabbed the cat and he threw it out on the porch and threw it in his syrup, in his hot syrup. So the next day, he told us what had happened, but the cat disappeared, kind of. And the next day, I believe it was Jackie and I were going up to school, and this cat was hanging around us and was coming around our legs and our feet, and we disowned the cat in front of the other kids because he looked so ugly.
Is that the time that he threw his teeth in that big thing?
Through the teeth?
I don't remember that.
Oh, I got to get you on this with the teeth thing.
No,
You're going to have to sit in about teeth. Talk to me about what it was like to work in the mill that made the bowling pins.
Oh, yeah.
That was, I would say, about 52 or 53. And there's a man, an entrepreneur, who moved to Eagle Lake and felt that there was enough maple trees around to make bowling pins, which he was going to make out of maple wood, and it's hard and solid. So he established a mill, and for 2 summers, Bernie and I worked at the mill while on vacation. We would it was made with laminated wood, laminated maple, and so we would have to glue this on a big gluer. So my first summer I worked on the gluer with Bernie. The next summer I was painting the lines on the neck of the pills of the pins, and we paint that with lacquer, 3 red lines on the neck, and I would do that all day for 8 hours a day. And Bernie kept that summer too. He worked on the gluer, and the mill went well at the beginning. Their pins sold well, and they were very careful of the inspection and everything. But 2 years later, they really had problems with their pins, and there were carloads of pins that had been shipped out west, and they had to pay to have this come back because the pins were faulty.
What made them faulty?
The wood was ungluing on the pins.
So when a bowling ball hit him?
The wood shattered. Some pieces would come off, and so as a result, especially because of those 2 carloads that came back, it was a small mill, so it didn't take much to have it go bankrupt, and it went bankrupt. And but that was a great place. A lot of people worked there. We're probably 70, 80 people working there.
Wow. Okay, I think we got it, Manel. Appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm going to go